Yo, what's good, y'all? It's JV, one half of the J&J podcast. I'm here with Vic once again. Draft lottery was on Monday, and shocking surprise, Dallas Mavericks got the number one pick. So we are going to be doing a post lottery mock draft, lottery only. This is gonna be mock number 3. Um, Probably not the last one. There'll probably be one more, but this is gonna be a fun mock though.
Absolutely.
I don't remember. I think last time I had the number one pick. Do you want to go first, or do you want to? Or are you planning to fuck some shit up by pick two,
Bro,
and I'll go first?
I don't remember, but yeah, I am planning to some stuff up. So yeah, if you want to go first,
I guess I'll go first. First overall pick, no brainer. Dallas Mavericks will be selecting Cooper Flag from Duke University. Um, they just got blessed, bro. They just got blessed with everything. So yeah, I'm just adding it to the screen here. They just got blessed with everything, getting this pick. Now you get to add Luka Doncic. I mean, my bad, Cooper Flag to this core with Anthony Davis and Kyrie when he returns. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. This is going to be one of the better defensive teams with Cooper Flag being one of the best two-way prospects. So I think it's gonna be really fun. I think he's gonna be walking into a good situation. There's not gonna be a ton of. There's not gonna be like crazy pressure on him to like put the team on his back, which I think for Cooper is perfect. Like he doesn't have that pressure to come in, be the savior of
absolutely.
the franchise. He kind of, I think he's gonna have kind of like what Tatum had when he went to Boston. Like they had vets there. He got to just go in as a rookie and learn, and then by year 3 he started to come into his own. I think it's gonna be a similar thing. My only concern with him going to Dallas is like they're gonna be competitive right away, and they don't really have a young core or future draft picks like that. So it's like once AD and Kyrie are getting up there in age, I want to see what they're gonna do to add talent around Cooper Flag once he reaches like year 4, year 5. That's my big question. Because at least with Boston, they had Brown, Marcus Smart, you Terry Rozier, you had all those guys. So that's probably my biggest question about Dallas getting Cooper Flag.
Yeah. So I feel like should we discuss it? Because I almost feel like that kind of begs the question in some way, especially with some of the things you mentioned there, right? Like how, he's automatically stepping into a competitive situation and has to compete for a championship. And, we know that Nico Harrison did trade Luka Doncic. So, I think that begs the question, do you think that this is a tradable pick?
Nah, I don't think so. I think you keep Cooper Flag. Um, to get blessed like this, I don't think you'd want to fuck it up. And you're getting a guy who's gonna be entering the league as like the youngest player in the league. Probably, he should still be in high. He should be graduating high school right now. So I think you keep him. You do the two timeline things. Have the old guys with him, and still have him learn the NBA game. I think my biggest question for them is just can they build around him when those two older stars are on the verge of retirement or they do retire. That's my big question with them because their only young player on the roster is what Lively and Max Christie.
Yeah. That's why, for me, I mean, I agree. I lean towards keeping the pick, but man, this is like a league. If the Bucks come calling and they say, "Hey, we got Giannis onto the Kumpo," like, I feel like you can't just hit. It's not one where you just hang up the phone and you're like, "What are you crazy?" Like, no, like it's something that you do have to discuss, especially when you're talking about defense wins championships, right? Cooper Flag is a great defensive player, but I mean, you put those two together, that's the best defensive front court I've probably seen in my lifetime. If that were to occur. So, and they're both like Giannis is just hitting 30 now, and they're both in their 30s, but they're on the right side of 30, but they still got some time or if one of them gets injured. So I just feel like there's no certain thing, there's no guarantee, and you shouldn't like definitively say. Of course, in terms of the media and public, you don't ever want to, give some hint or a clue and say, oh yeah, we might trade this pick and all of that stuff, right? They did a very good job concealing the Luka Doncic trade. But I don't know. That's just me. I'm like on the fence about it. I keep switching opinions about it, to tell you the truth. But
I think Dallas should keep him.
yeah, like I agree because I feel like in the long term it's probably much better. And you already gave away Luka Doncic, but like if they did make the trade, I'm not gonna be like, wow, that was like a horrible thing. I just would be like, it's risky, but hey.
Yeah. On to the number 2 pick. The San Antonio Spurs are on the clock. Let's see what you got. What crazy stuff you got in store.
So over here with the second pick of the draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Ace Bailey out of Rutgers University. All
So
right.
we got Ace Bailey going 2 to the Spurs.
Now, listen up over here. I know the draft combine was a little bit concerning, and I'm going to be honest with you. I was always skeptical that Ace Bailey, that was not his listed and real height right there. That listed height right there, that was not his real height. Because if you saw him in photos, compared to other players that were considered 6'10" or 7 footers, he didn't look 6'10". Now, they said they measured him to be like 6'7". I don't know about that. He does look 6'8", 6'9". Either way, he's still very young.
I think
He's
it was 6'7" barefoot.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys barefoot are like 2 inches shorter. They say CP3 is like 5'10"
Yeah.
barefoot. I don't know. Either way, I'm not too concerned. My concern is always, kind of everybody else's concern, right? That, this is a guy that we didn't see too much creation from at the college level, and it's like, how can that translate into the NBA level? But we know the talent of the shot making he can create. I think he fits a lot better with this team than a Dylan Harper would. I think if you draft Dylan Harper, the only thing you're doing is creating a Tyrese Halliburton situation, if not maybe even exacerbated with the fact that you have Stephon Castle there. All of those players, all of them deserve 30 minutes a game, right? Stephon maybe 25, and that almost can't happen. Okay, and I just feel like that in the long term isn't necessarily a healthy thing, but he's a great player, and I 100% expect the Spurs to pick Dylan Harper because that's just the way teams roll. Okay, but I feel like Ace Bailey is still like, yes, he's a prospect. I still feel like we'll see what happens in the summer league, but I feel like he's a good enough player that he might not show you the star capabilities right away, but he will definitely he keeps showing the upside. And I think what we've learned is with some of these players, you just have to have patience. So Spurs, Wemby's still a baby, right? And they still have so many draft picks left. I would just take Ace Bailey. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, I'm not mad at this pick at all. I think my other option would have been to trade the pick and to trade back maybe with like a Brooklyn and see what you could get from them, maybe like a Cam Johnson and add on to that. Um but I don't mind the Ace Bailey pick just because I feel like I trust the Spurs development where you could have him like I I don't know about reach his full potential next to Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. He's not gonna get all the touches he's gonna want, but like you could turn him into something a little bit. I'm not gonna say better, but they'll probably get the most out of his defensive upside a little bit quicker, and just make him into a guy that cuts down on his bad habits, make him build good habits from there. Um, so you may see like a completely different player, like a guy who's taken out all the bad like flaws in his game that people see as like red flags, you might see them get taken away with the Spurs as a franchise in that development. So I don't mind that at all. Um, I'd probably look to trade it. Um, Dylan Harper is best player available, but I just some people are like, "Ah, just get him," but I'm like, bro, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, and I also want to make the point too. I do feel like if um, Giannis is available and you can get Giannis with that pick, that's my number one option. As
Yeah,
much as I, love Ace Bailey as a prospect. I mean, I said before Anthony Davis and Giannis. It's the same thing with Giannis and Wemby. So
yeah. If they didn't have De'Aaron Fox, I would have been like, yeah, take Harper,
1,000%
because
agree.
because
But
I think him and Castle could play together and
yeah,
complement each other well.
yeah.
But
You gave up draft picks for De'Aaron Fox. You don't
mm,
just right. I mean, that's just my opinion. But
yep, the third overall pick. Um, damn, this is crazy because now it's like Dylan Harper about to be in a free fall.
yeah, this
um,
is crazy because last pod when we simulated it, we had 76ers with the third overall pick. I remember.
yeah. So Philadelphia 76ers jump up to 3. They don't deserve it if you ask me.
Nope.
Um, I already know the guy that you would take here, but I'm gonna take the guy that I think that they're going to take come draft day, and that's gonna be VJ Edgecombe. And I think they're just gonna go with him because he's the type of guy that I think that Philly's obviously trying to win now and maximize the most they can from this Embiid and Maxi era. He's a guy that you could put him in and play today, and also when they do make that decision to let go of Embiid, let go of Paul George, he's a guy you could have with the core of Maxi, with McCain, and see how it goes from there. The only thing I don't really like, I don't, I like this pick for them for the now, for today, for the trying to compete. For the future, I don't really like it just because he's a shooting guard. Yes, he's athletic as fuck. At the combine, I think his height was listed at 6'4". So it's like he's not a point guard. I know some people was like he can make some plays with the ball. He shot it better the second half of the season. We got to see if it's real now cuz now it's NBA 3-point line, not the college line. We'll see how it goes from there. Um I don't know. So you're looking at him to run your 3 at 6'4" and a half, 6'5", and that's already that you're kind of compromising height at that point because you have Maxi who's 6'2", McCain who's like 6'2", 6'3", and now you got your guy that you're gonna ask to play your 3 who's 6'4", 6'5". So I think in reality it would have been between him and Ace Bailey. Since Ace went second, I went with VJ because I feel like Philly realistically is gonna be between Ace, VJ, or they just trade the pick. So next pick we got the Charlotte Hornets with the fourth pick.
All right. My bad. I'm sorry. You got muted there for a sec. I was a little.
Nah, yeah, I muted. I got
Yeah.
muted. I was like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. What you gonna call? Well, first of all, I just wanted to touch on that real quick with Philly. I ain't mad at that pick at all. Um, honestly, I mean, I don't know who you thought I would have picked, but I have an idea because a lot of the players I like in this draft since we're always talking about it. But to be honest, Justin, I kind of keep switching on who I want because I have two different philosophies, right? I'm like the pick I would take for Embiid, but the pick I would take long term if I move on from Embiid because if I move on from Embiid, I ain't moving on from Tyrese Maxey. And there's players like, you mentioned Ace Bailey, right? Dude, that's a nasty pairing, right? Tyrese
Yeah.
and Ace Bailey. So there's options there. So to be honest, I'm kind of a little bit fluctuated and like all over the place. So I'm very happy you had that pick because that was the one where I probably was just gonna like screw up anyway. But okay, so fourth pick, Charlotte Hornets. Man, you're probably gonna be a little bit surprised. This. What do you call? But I can't believe he's slipping this far. Um, but look, I know what I said about LaMelo Ball and everything, but I'm still picking at this point Dylan Harper because if I am the
I'm
Charlotte,
not mad at it. I'm not mad at it by any
because
means.
listen, I'm sorry if I am the Charlotte Hornets, and there's one player on that board that is one of my favorite players in this draft, and I also would like I wouldn't mind him on this team. But with Dylan Harper still available there, like I can't not pick him, especially for
Yeah.
a franchise like the Hornets that are just such a, you know, I'm sorry, I don't want to disrespect Jordan, but like just such a putrid freaking franchise, the Hornets. Like that's one franchise that you get drafted to in sports, and you're just like, oh man, like it's you're not going to do much there. But I think Dylan Harper and Lamelo Ball. You say I think Harper could play off the ball a little bit better than, or what do you call it? Lamelo Ball could play a little bit better off the ball than De'Aaron Fox because Lamelo Ball is a really good shooter, right? And you give Dylan Harper a little bit more ball handling responsibilities. Maybe you turn the ball over a little bit less, right? So I like the fit there a little bit more with Lamelo Ball than I do on the Spurs with De'Aaron Fox, right? So I know for a fact, that this is not going to happen, and I'd be extremely shocked. But like, just for the sake of this mock, I absolutely would pick Dylan Harper, right? In a scenario where, again, the Hornets, you never really know what's available now anymore, especially what we saw with Luka, right? The fourth pick could be some of the players on the board could be intriguing, so I wouldn't be surprised if they traded it too. But for the sake of this draft, I'm picking Dylan Harper here. Pairing them up with LaMelo Ball, I think that's a nasty backcourt if they can make it work.
Yeah, I don't mind this pick at all just because LaMelo's always hurt every year. We're always questioning the health. So why not take a chance on Dylan Harper? And eventually, if the injury concerns are that bad with LaMelo Ball, you choose Dylan Harper and you ship LaMelo Ball. And there's gonna be a team out there that's gonna want him, Orlando. So you see what you get back from him, and you move on. Cause every year we always have to question, is LaMelo Ball gonna be healthy enough? And if you take Dylan Harper here and you take the risk, if it works out with them two, good. If it doesn't and he's hurt, you pivot. You have Dylan Harper right there. So I think I'm not mad at this pick at all. Next pick, Utah Jazz. Um, to me, I don't even really have to think about it. This team needs some type of young talent. It sucks that this team didn't move up in the lottery. I think they really deserve. I would have loved for them to get the second pick and they get Harper this year and potentially get like a top 3 pick next year. That would have been dope. But them picking at 5, I'm going to take Trey Johnson for them. Absolute bucket, led the SEC in scoring as a freshman. Um, I think it's going to be great to have this guy. And a lot of, even though it says 2.7 assists, if you watch his tape, the playmaking, I feel like
Nice.
he's underrated as a playmaker. And I think with Will Hardy, they could tap into that more. Um, I think this is going to be a fun pick for them. This is Utah's going to get their buckets getter, and I think this guy, he's going to be a 20-point per game scorer in this league. Probably not right away, but damn near soon. So I think this would be a great pick for them. And then you could probably move off of Jordan Clarkson, see what you get back from him, because there's going to be teams like our Knicks that would love to have a Jordan Clarkson come off that bench, or other contending teams. So you could see what you do from there. But I would take Trey Johnson, no doubt. to Utah.
Yeah, Justin knows how much I like Trey Johnson. Might be my favorite player in this draft. Just a straight bucket. Also, had one of the best combines too. Shot the ball very, very well. And to Justin's point, you know, um, don't take that 2.7 assists. So, like to heart and whatnot, because even in the combine, he was showing, his capabilities to, play point guard abilities and whatnot. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. Right with the point that you made with the Jazz, but I have to be honest here. At the fifth pick, if they can get a player like this, I almost feel like in some ways it's a blessing because I think this is a guy. If I had to pick one guy that can average 20 to 22 points off the jump from this draft, it's Trey Johnson. Um, you know, so I definitely would pick him. And there's several teams here I'd have him on, but especially for the situation the Jazz are in, this is the one team that, because of the position they're in, I want Trey Johnson to go to. So I'm with you 100% all the way. And yeah, let's go Trey Johnson. Don't disappoint me because I am, one of your biggest fans over here. So yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sixth overall pick. We got the Washington Wizards pick in here.
Oof, yeah, this was a tough pick for me. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I don't want to say you're not gonna like this pick because you love this player, but I don't know if you're gonna like the fit. But like just evaluating where they are and everything. And again, you made the point with the Jazz, right? I think you could say the exact same thing with the Wizards, where they really needed somebody, right? Like, a Trey Johnson or a Cooper Flag, right? A Dylan Harper, any of those players. They really needed that. And, they're probably not going to get. I'd be shocked if, we'll see what happens with the Jazz, right? They might like somebody else more. You never know. Honestly, they might like the player I'm about to pick more. It wouldn't surprise me. Uh, but I don't see Trey Johnson getting past 6, and I don't see this player getting past, I would say, 6, maybe 7 with the next pick. But I'm picking for the Washington Wizards. I can't believe it, but Con Knipple.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I look at what they need: scoring, scoring, scoring. Number one for sure. Um, I look at like their best scorer might be Chris Middleton. Okay, at this point,
Yeah.
um, so I just feel like they're at a point where they're not going to get fortunate every year in the lottery. This is one of those years, and you got to take best player available. And at this point, I feel like there's certain guys that have more upside than him for sure. Especially that other Duke player that's standing on the board there as well. There's other players that might have more upside, but you need something right now. Plus, the other Duke player, they just drafted Alex Sarr, right? So that wouldn't make any sense. I like Con Knipple there. When I'm looking at some of the other players I see on the board, and you also want to take the a combination of best player available and fit, right? And I feel like he's the best player out of all of that fits those two criteria. So, Con Knipple, Washington Wizards.
Yeah, Conquerable. I can't say enough good things about him. He's the type of guy he could literally fit in any situation. Um, I think this would be one of those situations where he'll probably be able to have the ball in his hands a little bit more, and we'll see if they get lucky in next year's lottery to finally get the guy. Because I feel like right now Washington's accumulating a good amount of young talent. I feel like last year's draft they cooked, getting Sar, Carrington, Keyshawn George. Year before that, you got Koulibaly. So just adding on to it, getting Conkanibble, that's a that's you'll take that every time, and you still have Corey Kispert, who you could keep around or you could trade, because other teams would love to have him on the roster. So he's just gonna be able to fit anywhere. Let me make that selection real quick. I think this next pick is like the
You're right,
hardest.
though. I'm sorry, but you are right, though. I didn't necessarily think about that because I feel like that's the only thing. Like with Kispert and Knipple on the floor together, I don't know if I like that only because I feel like that'd be a defensive liability, and they're kind of like
Yeah,
in some ways offensively a little bit of the same player. Knipple's probably better because playmaking and whatnot. But
me
like you said, I
personally,
mean, Kispert, you could definitely trade him.
yeah, me personally, I think I low key would have. I wouldn't have minded the possibility of Derek Queen in Washington, even though you have
Really.
Sar there. But
Yeah, because you could play him at power forward
yeah,
because
I think
he's
you could play
he
them
measured
together.
up at 6'9". So
Yeah,
you're right.
I feel like that would have been fun. Now this is the hardest pick of the entire draft to me. Uh, New Orleans at 7 because it's like
Really?
you, low key, yeah, because it's like they have everybody. Um,
Well,
I
yeah, you're right.
like I don't want to take. I don't want to like Fears and Maluach are probably best player available, but I don't know if I want to take either of them here. Eh,
Yeah, I feel like you're in a quandary because you don't know what's gonna happen with that guy right there, Zion Williamson, right? And
yeah,
that kind of determines your pick, in my opinion.
yeah, and I'm just looking down. It's like they're in a weird spot. Um,
Because I know who I'd pick if I'm keeping him, and I know who I'd pick if I'm not. That's just me.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the biggest elephant in the room for this team is Dejounte Murray and CJ. Like those are two guys. Like, but I don't know
Yeah.
what the Pelicans' plans are. Like to compete or retool. I don't know because the West is only getting stronger. Um, this kind of fucks up a lot of shit. But
And I wouldn't count out a trade either because they also have plenty of assets, right?
now yeah, this is a team. If I'm them and this is the situation I'm in, I think I might trade back. But for the sole purpose of making a pick, um, damn, I think I might take. I think I'm gonna just say fuck it and do I don't know, bro. This is so bad. Like like I'm kind of leaning two different ways. Part of me wants to take Malowach, but then it's like you already have Eves Misi, but just because you have that shooting potential and you could potentially play him with Zion, and then another part of me is like just take Fears. I don't think Dejounte is gonna be there for that long. But selfishly, I would like to see Fears in a situation where he could just get the rock from day one. Um, I feel like Derek Queen wouldn't be that bad either, but he'd be coming off the bench for Zion. Zion's always hurt. I don't know. This
I
is little.
don't
This
like
is
that
little.
fit with Queen
Yeah,
and Zion.
yeah. That's a weird fit.
I don't like that fit.
Yeah. This is a bad spot. Fuck it. I'm gonna take, even though I wanted to wait till two picks down the road, but I think I'm gonna take Malowach here. Fuck it. Cause you know what's crazy? Last year this team had no center, and they drafted Eves
Yeah.
Misi. I think they came into the year with Daniel Tice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Daniel
But
Tice.
but
Yeah.
then Misi stepped up. He became the starting center as a rookie. Why not
Yep.
take a chance on another center? The league is only getting bigger now. If you have two bigs, that's a plus. This one could potentially Kamal Maluach could potentially stretch the floor. Still very raw. If it works out, you got you. If you want to get real freaky and do that point Zion shit, imagine having him and Misi on the court. Maluach and
Oh
Misi.
man, yeah,
That
that's.
and Herb Jones
I
and
mean,
Trey Murphy.
the only thing is defense. Like they give up a lot of thhree, so
Yeah, they
BC
would.
and Malawash.
Yeah, they would. But I say fuck it. You wanna get crazy? You could experiment
Yeah,
with this because I feel like
because
I I wouldn't take a chance with a guard because you're not gonna get no type of value with them.
yeah, not if you keep your backcourt there. But I also do think that Kaman and Zion would be a good fit because it's not like Kaman needs the ball, right? Like Derek Queen, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that.
Next
Yeah.
pick is the Brooklyn
Brooklyn Nets.
Nets at
Brooklyn Nets.
8.
Wow, this is another team where,
This is low
man,
key a no brainer.
they what you call they I'm looking at their depth chart over here, and yeah, they need everything, and they were definitely a team that needed a top three pick. And I have a friend who's a big Nets fan, um, you know, and man, like I don't know, they're just they needed a top three pick, but I'll say, I mean, free might be obvious, and there might be somebody there. I don't know if I'm gonna pick the same guy, but who I would pick here, um, because to me, I feel like Cam Thomas is easily your best player, right? And or like the guy you want to move forward with, right? To like kind of like he's your building block, right? And I feel like you kind of want to pair him up with the really good explosive backcourt mate, and I feel like that's Jeremiah Fears, right?
Yeah.
Him and feel like also with Brooklyn, right? I just feel like Jeremiah Fears is just like that type of player that could like light up the Barclays Center, right? With like explosive, drives to the rim, right? Um, but I also think like I like that fit, for the long term future, solidifying your backcourt with Jeremiah Fears and right Cam Thomas. I assume they'll probably move on from Nick Claxton, but they also have several picks in this draft, so I think they could, potentially move up and find a way to get, like a Maluwatch or even like a Derek Queen or something like that, or even like Ace Newell eventually. But just for right now with this pick, I feel like, also best player available too. You can make that argument for sure. So, yeah, I think Jeremiah Fears is kind of like, I don't know if this was who you were referring to with the no brainer, but
I
this
was,
is what,
yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
this is why I like with Cam Thomas here, and just with the Nets in general. Assuming this is who is left on the board, because there are other guys that we talked about, like if they can trade up and uh, manage to get Ace Bailey, right, or what I mean. The only player I don't like for them to get if they found a way up for him and he was available is Trey Johnson. As much as I love Trey Johnson, because it's just him and Cam Thomas are kind of the same player in some ways. So
Yeah. I feel like Fears in Brooklyn will be a fucking movie. Like they'll actually have somebody that is actually worth going to watch.
yeah, it'd
Next,
be exciting.
ninth pick, Toronto Raptors. This is another team that's kind of like they kind of have everything. They're missing that center, and this is another team that low key is in those rumors and for the Giannis sweepstakes. So you got to keep an eye out for that. They just extended Brandon Ingram, but this team kind of has a little bit of everything. The one thing they're lacking in is center, and the fit is probably not the best, but I think if you could finesse it somehow, there is I could see a slight scenario where it could work. You just have to be creative and finesse this. But I'm gonna take Derek Queen here for the Raptors. Yeah, they need a center badly.
They do. I just, especially how he measured up at the combine, 6'9" and everything. I'm starting to lean more him being a power forward in this league. But I definitely think he can switch, be a stretch big as well. Um, If he can knock down his shot more consistently, now we're really talking about like a stretch four. Also could play center as well. But yeah, I'm not mad at that pick. I feel like if they had an opportunity to get Malawach, it would be a better fit. Um,
Yeah,
only
that's why
because
I was at a crossroads at that fucking seventh pick
yeah,
because I
um,
want the Raptors to get Malawach so bad.
yeah, and it's only because Queen, obviously he needs the ball in his hands, right? That's how he's effective, and you got Scotty Barnes, you got Brandon Ingram, you got R.J. Barrett, you got Manuel quickly. Like it's gonna be hard to get Queen those one-on-one ISO opportunities he's looking for. So, you know, I'm not like mad at that pick. What do you call it? But it's just like I feel like it's just kind of compensation at this point for them not being able to get Malawach most likely.
And he's BPA because another guy I thought about for them was Asa Newell, but for him, Asa Newell is like you don't really know if he's a center, if he's a power forward. He's like in
Yeah.
between, and with all those question marks and stuff like that, I'd rather just take best player available at that point.
You're right, but I do kind of like the Newell fit more because he moves better off the ball, right? Or
Yeah,
he's more useful off the ball and everything, and he is a little bit taller than Derek Queen as well. So I do like that fit a little bit more. Like I wouldn't be mad if they picked Ace Newell. So that's honestly probably who I would have picked. But yeah.
10th overall pick, we got the Houston Rockets via Phoenix. Wow.
Yeah, at this point, man, what do you call? I'm gonna tell you something, and I know this player. They said he was like I was watching a few videos before this, and like they were calling him a combine loser. Fine, I get it because he didn't measure up, to like 6'2", even though I mean it is what it is. Players are he measured up to like 6 foot something, and he's not currently on this available players board that you see. He's probably a little bit further down. But I just looked at the Rockets, and the number one thing they need is yeah, I see him. And the number one thing they need is shooting, right? And I like I hate doing this because the Rockets they have Fred VanVleet, they have Amin Thompson, even though I think he's more of a small forward or a point forward. And they also just drafted Reed Shepard last year. But I kind of feel like at this point, right, with the Rockets, you might have wanted a higher pick. You also have the assets to get a higher pick, and that's why I feel like this draft, I think, has the opportunity to have so many trades, right? Because like there's so many teams that at this point would probably want to move up. Because he's taken like my favorite player and fit for this team essentially is probably um, Con Knipple. Obviously, he's not there, and there's no reason why he should be. But at this point, I'm probably would take Jace Richardson. I think he's an underrated
Wow.
playmaker. I think he's an underrated playmaker. And like I said, they desperately, they should have beaten the Warriors. They were the better team. Steph is just the best. Was just the best player on the court. But the reason why they couldn't beat the Warriors was they didn't have the shooting to do it. And if Jace Richardson is going to be the best, consistent shooter available there, okay, sorry, Liam McNeely. All right, I'm just being honest here, right? But, like that's who I'm picking. And he's also a guy that I don't expect the Fred Van Vliet's on a team option. I expect them to probably accept it and then either trade him or, move on from him the following year. This is an extremely young team, and I feel like he's somebody that you could move with that you are certain, okay, from what you've seen in the combine, right, and from what you've seen in college, if that translates into the NBA, then you are certain you're going to get a guy that can shoot the basketball and can provide you with that off ball movement, right? It's not like, he needs to be playing point guard. He's just an undersized shooting guard, might give you a little bit of problems defensively. It is a great defensive team. They can make up for it. But yeah, point is, I just, this is a tough pick. This is the toughest pick I've had to make so far. But, this is to me what I would pick at this point because that's really what they need is shooting.
Mm, this was a surprising pick. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
I expected you to be surprised.
um, they do need shooting, but at the same time, last year they picked Reed Shepard, who was the best shooter in the draft, and he didn't touch the floor. Jace Richardson, I feel like it would be more the same thing. He wouldn't touch the floor, and
He struggled shooting Reed Shepard. That was a problem. So, there's no guarantee that he's just going to come in next year and be a consistent shooter. So,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like Jace Richardson. I know you mentioned that like he's more of a undersized shooting guard, and I don't know if they need that. Cause Fred, yeah, the bad moments with him in the playoffs at times. At the end of the day, he was like one of the guys. Like obviously with Shingun alongside him, he was one of the guys that like he kept doing that game in that series. Those last uh 3 games before Game 7, he was playing like a fucking dog, Fred Van Vliet.
100%.
So I don't know. I just feel like Jace Richardson wouldn't really get the opportunity to showcase his talent with Houston, because I feel like yeah they do need shooting, but
It is crowded. Yeah, I do
it's
agree there.
crowded, and I feel like they're not gonna want to compromise um even more size, because I feel like what made Houston so good was the overwhelming size outside of Fred Van Vliet. You had Steven Adams, who given the Warriors problems playing alongside Shingun. You had Tari Eason out there. The minutes with Jabari Smith when he was out there. Men Thompson. Um, for me, this guy doesn't help the shooting problem, but he's a guy that could go in and give you good minutes as a rookie just because of the defensive upside, and he's probably one of the best defensive players in this draft. And it's Kyler Murray Boyles.
Yeah,
Um, I probably would have took him. NBA body, 6'7". The defensive instincts are there. I think he's a guy he could step into Houston and he'll play ASAP. The shooting is in question, but I think the defense is enough to keep him on the floor.
yeah, and I think you could also argue there BPA, right? But
Yeah,
I just it's kind of like with what we were saying before. Like, I don't want to say he would be redundant because he wouldn't be. I like if anything, Richardson would probably be more redundant because it's crowded. It's just like Houston is this weird an interesting team. They got to make a few moves. That's all I'm going to
yeah,
say because you know what I mean. They have to get shooting there, and I agree. Fred Van Vliet is somebody that if you're going to replace him, you have to make sure you're getting that production back. So yeah,
yeah. 11th pick, Portland Trailblazers. Let's get Jeremy Grant the fuck out of here in this offseason. Let's get Anthony Simons out of here this
it's going to be
offseason.
so hard with Grant.
Yeah, this pick is kind of weird. Um, I think here at 11, uh, damn. See, what actually, mm, I feel like, actually, I think damn, where the fuck is he at? Actually, nah. Damn, this is a weird situation. Uh, I think here, I might just say fuck it. I might take Kyler Murray Boyles here just because he's BPA. You get rid of Jeremy Grant. Um, I feel like you're just adding more. Like the defense is just gonna get sneakier and sneakier because now you have Danny Avdia, Tamani Kamara. Um, I don't think Aiton is gonna be their center of the future. You have Klingon. You add him on Kyler Murray Boyles to the mix. I feel like the defense gets scarier. Um, I thought about Asa Newell, but I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna just say fuck it and take the upside of Kyler Murray Boyles here.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I have my eye on DeAndre Ayton because he needs to get traded. You can't be doing this with DeAndre Ayton and Donovan Clingan. Like,
Yeah,
I get it. You're not ready to play Clingan 30 minutes a game yet, but what are you done? Okay, like that just doesn't make any sense because DeAndre Ayton, in my opinion, is too good to be coming off the bench. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, he should not have been the number one pick. He's not a freaking scrub dog. Okay, like I'm sorry, he's still a
yeah,
top 10, 15 center in my opinion. So yeah, I like this. I actually like this pick. Um, for the long term future a lot. Like just pairing him and clinging up, especially. I'm a little bit. This might sound crazy, bro, but I'm a little bit more confident in Klingon developing a jumper than Colin Murray Boyles. We've seen a little bit with Klingon from time to time, right? But um, when I say I mean like a 3 point shot because Murray can shoot like mid rangers and like what I mean. But the combine he did struggle with that. So I'm a little bit concerned, but in terms of like fit and everything,
yeah,
I probably would say this is this or probably another player I'm looking at is a good fit, but I probably would have gone with like a forward is what I'm saying essentially.
yeah,
So because they had their backcourt is also too crowded as
yeah.
well. So
12th pick. The Chicago Bulls are on the clock.
yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Yeah, this guy's gonna be standing there for a while. I kind of feel bad for him, but
I kind of got an idea of two guys here.
uh, what you call? But I can't pick him there. Um, to be honest, there's a few guys I probably would have liked to pick here. One player that it's just the problem is with the Bulls, and we talked about this, right? They needed. I'm sorry, but they needed to tank, bro. What are you doing? Shouldn't be having the 12th pick because I feel like, especially once you move on from Nikola Vukovic, right? I would have loved to see a guy like Derek Queen on the Bulls, right? I just like,
Yeah,
I don't know why, but that's just one of my favorite. Well, I know why, but like, it's just one of my favorite fits. But I don't think it's gonna happen because I feel like he's too good of a player to, drop that far down low. But I feel like they're gonna need a big for the future. And they do kind of. This is a team that does have a pretty decent amount of shooting, right? I'm just very confused about this team where they're headed because you can't keep Nikola Vukovic. He's a dinosaur for this team, and I look at a guy like Kobe White, like him a lot. Probably, to be honest, my favorite player on the team is Kobe White. But he's not old, but he's also at a point where I feel like if you want to rebuild, he probably wants to be on a playoff team, and the Bulls are like delusional and still think they are. Like this is one of the teams I'm so confused on their direction and where they want to go. Um, but I'm just acting like I'm the GM here, and I'm looking at this team, and they have a pretty solid backcourt, right? Um, Josh Giddey there as well. But I would probably just end up picking Ace Newell here because I feel like they're going to need a big for the future, and Newell is a guy that can move pretty well off the ball. I think he's a pretty underrated scorer. He had a pretty solid combine as well, and he showed his ability to score inside as well. He's not necessarily like a Derek Queen, right, where he's gonna just like bully you with his big size and whatnot. But he's definitely able to, create for himself down there, and perhaps draw double teams every now and then, right?
yeah,
Obviously, he's not anybody that's really gonna stretch the floor for you, but I also think he brings some good defensive upside as well, right? Which is something that this team is also going to need for the future. So, just with everybody that's available, he's my favorite fit for this team.
Yeah, I'm not mad at this pick at all. I feel like the smart move would be to go a front court player or
Yeah,
maybe even a wing, just because they have so many guards on the roster. Um,
I don't know if you want another wing though, especially because like even though it was a mistake, you did re-sign Patrick Williams, so you have to play him, and you have Buzelis there as well, right? Arguably, your best prospect at the moment. So
yeah, I get the point of you just paid Pat Will, but like I feel like you can never have too many wings, especially like if
yeah.
you could get somebody to sit Patrick Williams ass down, you do that shit ASAP. But yeah, you're right about Buzelis. He is their shining spot right now. 13th pick, the Atlanta Hawks. Um, there's two guys that I kind of have my eye on here. Um, one guy that I've done more research on recently. Um, but I don't know. I feel like here. I mean, I feel like he could benefit playing here as well. Um, I feel like you can't really go wrong with either guy. But actually, mm, fuck it. I'm gonna pivot and do something that like I wasn't even thinking about until now because I feel like this team kind of needs it. Um, I think I'm gonna take Kasparis here because I feel like he should go in the lottery, and the reason I'm taking him here is just because I think outside of Trey Young, this team needs more playmaking. Like you can't let it fall all on Trey Young. And some of the biggest things like concerns with Kasparis is the turnover numbers. But you got a guy like Trey Young that you'll be learning from, a guy who's dealt with those turnovers and stuff like that. He has good size at 6'6", 200 pounds. He's shown what he could do, like creating with the ball. Some people say the shot is a little bit shaky, but we'll see from there. But a lot of people's biggest concerns with him is the turnovers, like him just having too many. But I think with him being next to Trey Young and learning under him, and him being that guard off the bench, because they need desperately playmaking outside of him. I was looking at guys like Rasheer Fleming and Noah Senge, two wings that they could complement very well to this team and add to it, on the two-way ability. But it's like with Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson, like you have those guys, and I mean I don't know how much more like these guys are gonna, because it's like it's I don't want to say redundant, but it's like you do need more playmaking. Like as good as those other guys are, I feel like Jalen Johnson could reach a level where I'm not saying he's gonna be like a fucking maestro with the ball, but I feel like he could reach a point where he has the ball in his hands and he can make plays off the high post and shit like that or in transition. So I think I would take a chance on Kasparis here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit surprised by that pick, even though um, I do agree with most of the points you made there. Only because, like, I feel like um, with Dyson Daniels, that's just like such a good fit and like a good backcourt that I feel like it would just get a little bit crowded, and you'd have Kasparis off the bench, right, and he kind of would be like another playmaker for you and whatnot. And like you said, when Trey's on the floor, it can kind of like help him not turn the ball over as much and what not. But I don't know. I just with Dyson Daniels is not necessarily my favorite fit because I just love the Dyson Daniels and Trey Young fit there. But this is another team that I'm a little bit stuck on, essentially who to pick here. But um, what do you call it? Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like, it wouldn't be a bad um, pick either. But I also think this is a team that is very likely to trade down as well.
Yeah,
Um,
they might trade back.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't Kasparis, like this was, I probably would have took Rasheer Fleming here just because he's NBA
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Um, shot the three ball well last year. We'll see if that's a real thing. Um, or I would have took Noah Senge, a guy who's has the good size and not NBA body, still needs to fill out, but he's a guy who doesn't need the ball, will score in transition, will make timely cuts, and you like his defensive upside. Those are two guys I probably would have went with if it wasn't Kasparis. Um, but I'm like, I don't know, Kasparis, he might get undrafted on this lottery. I'm like, I think he could um make some noise here. Next pick, last pick of the lottery is the San Antonio Spurs.
Man, uh, there's like three players here. I can't lie that I want to pick, and I'm a little bit stuck on it. I feel like you might end up being a little bit surprised after I pick this guy, because most people don't have him in the lottery, but I just look at this team and um, I feel like with this Spurs team, there's not like a bunch of things that they like necessarily need, right? Where it's like they need shooting for sure, but it's not like they're so desperate. Like they're not like the Rockets, in my opinion, right? Or especially the Magic, right? Like those are two teams that desperately need shooting. But I, look, I like Noah Senge a lot, and I feel like there's a good chance they could pick him here.
Yeah.
And in terms of upside, he's absolutely my favorite one to pick here. So I
Yeah.
want to lean towards him, but there's just something telling me to pick Carter freaking Bryant.
I'm not mad at
Like,
either of those. I'm not mad at either of those at all.
there's something telling me to pick Carter Bryant here. I love the 6'8", six. I think he's 6'8", right? 6'8" or 6'9" frame. What do you call? Oh yeah, it says right there the 6'8" frame, and this was obviously what I think like a 38% shooter in
Yeah.
college, right? Like, just a really good shooter, somebody that, because the Spurs are going to have a lot of ball handlers. We know that. Somebody that does not need to handle the ball, and you could just play him off the ball, and he can get you open shots. He can space the floor out and, create mismatch problems there, right? And like discombobulate the defense, all of that stuff. Um, but like I said, I mean, I feel like a Senge definitely like he doesn't have that type of upside, right? Where a Senge, you also see the athleticism appeal with him, right? And he's somebody that overall I feel like can end up being the better overall player, and they might look back at it and regret and say, "Wow, we should have picked Noah Senge." But like, I'm sorry, like right now, I kind of feel like Bryant is the more NBA ready player. And, he's probably one of the best shooters remaining in the first round, except for Walter Clayton Jr., who, that's a different story there. But yeah, so that's what I have there for 14. Carter Bryant to the Spurs.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that pick at all. If I was here, it would have been between him or Noah Senge.
Yeah.
I agree with you though. I do feel like in terms of like coming in right away, Carter Bryant would probably be better than Noah Senge, but I do think Noah Senge's ceiling is higher than Carter Bryant's, especially if he could become a decent shooter. Because then it's like, oh shit, like we got something with this guy. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
he's already got a mid-range shot, Noah Senge. Like if you
yeah,
see his highlights and all of that stuff from France, and he's only I think like 18. So, and when you look at his body, like I feel like he's not done growing, right?
yeah,
You know what it looks like. So,
yeah,
like that's why I'm so like you saw how I'm like struggling there because I really want to pick him, for that upside, right? And like just imagining him and Wemby if he could develop a shot. But right now, I mean, this player is Carter Bryant. You like him a
Yeah.
lot too, and
And don't get it fucked up. Like people see the 6 points a game, they be like, "Oh, this guy's going lottery. What
yeah,
the
no, stop
fuck?"
it. Yeah, stop.
This is a guy. He's gonna fit very well. Doesn't need the ball in his hands.
Yeah,
3 and D potential. I'm not saying he reminds me of Cam Johnson, but like I feel like when Cam Johnson went 11th and everybody was like, "Holy shit!" This kind of reminds me of that. But I think his climb, throughout this whole combine process and everything, and even a little bit before that, has steadily been on the incline. So um,
yeah.
I think he could be like on that type. Like the casual fan might be like Carter Bryant. I've been hearing about Yegor Demon and all these guys all year. No, Nolan Traore. Who the fuck is this guy?
I
But
mean, yeah, Igor Devin, you're just adding another guard with the. It's just right, like
yeah, but I think Carter Bryant will fit in well with the Spurs.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to read off the picks of the lottery. So number one overall pick to the Mavericks, we got Cooper Flag. Second pick to the Spurs, we got Ace Bailey. Third overall to the Sixers, we got VJ Edgecombe. Fourth pick to the Hornets, we got Dylan Harper. Fifth pick, the Utah Jazz take Trey Johnson. Sixth pick, the Wizards take Con Knipple. Seventh pick, the New Orleans Pelicans take Kamal Malawach. Eighth pick, the Brooklyn Nets take Jeremiah Fears. Ninth pick, the Toronto Raptors take Derek Queen. 10th pick, the Houston Rockets take Jace Richardson. 11th pick, Portland Trailblazers select Colin Murray Boyles. 12th pick, the Chicago Bulls take Asa Newell. 13th pick, the Atlanta Hawks take Kasparis Jakuchonis. And with the 14th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select Carter Bryant. That rounds out the lottery. The draft is only like a month and a half away, so we're almost there. Maybe we'll do
Sure.
one last mock draft, like the final one right before the draft. I know me and Jordan got to do ours on the show, which I always look forward to because those are always so fun. Um, but yeah, this was fun. I can't wait for next year when we do this shit
Oh my
for the
god, yeah,
2026 class because it's
yeah,
just
it's
gonna
gonna be
it's gonna
another
be
great class.
yeah
Yeah,
it's just gonna be fun. But thank you again for pulling up to this. You're always gonna be the number one guy that I'm gonna hit up to
100%.
do these. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so if you guys are listening on audio, please give us 5 stars. Please like on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please comment. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next time.
Go Knicks.
Let's go Knicks.